Just a little optimist. No big deal. Good evening, everybody. I'm Know Nothing Attorney. I know nothing, so you can too. Because it's only in embracing that we know nothing that we can actually learn anything. That's what I aim to do here every night. Oh, yeah. Learn it. Man, my ADHD is so bad today. Whew. That's what I aim to do here every night. Every night I'm live, that is. Learn what's good, y'all. I have to learn from you guys, and I hope that you can learn along with me. Tonight we're planning to talk about delegations to a constitutional convention, what that would look like, how we would prefer that to look. Big dogs. Man, I'm doing good. I'm having a good night. Went to a Lunar New Year party earlier this evening. I'm a little wiped out from that. Too many kids, too many people. Man, my nervous system gets overloaded by having a bunch of people, but I'm doing good. Saw some people I love. Yeah. Year of the Horse. How are y'all doing? Food is fire. Oh, yeah. There was some good, legit Chinese food there. That was, Come on, you guys tell me what's going on with y'all. Y'all having a good year of the horse yourselves? Lunar New Year was Tuesday, right? So we've been in it almost a week. Your mechanic is a Frenchie, and I always call him Big Dog. Confuses him, but he always laughs. He's like, am I the big dog? I don't know. Do you want to be the smaller one? I can be the big dog if you like. The Lunar New Year and having a week with the kid, and Sundays are therapy days. Yeah. Ooh. Okay. I personally like to have my therapy days on work days. That way I can get a little just tiny break from work just to go do something. So that's nice. But yeah, kick ass with your therapy. Y'all, I don't know how much I can hold it together tonight. I am wiped out. It has been a very, very tiring couple of weeks. But tonight I wanted to talk about what a delegation to the Constitutional Convention should look like, because I think, last time it was landed, wealthy white men, the quote-unquote aristocracy of the colonies, and I think we need to make a system that works a little better for everybody this time around. We can't control what states are going to do in terms of what delegations they put together, and we can't control if we don't decide it ourselves in the application for the convention, then the Congress is going to come up with the delegations look like. And I think we should have a plan for, if we're going to be pitching this thing, we also need to plan what a pitch for the delegations, so that people don't go into it like wondering what they're supporting exactly. Australia is good with like returning from combat guys that sponsor trauma therapy and shit. So painful. Yeah. Yes, we do. Give me the money, I'll spend it better. Yes, we do what? Missed what that was a response to. So here's my thought. Now let's throw it up here real quick. Need a new approach. Well, yeah, absolutely, we need a new approach to the system. I don't know how much I can help you with a new approach to the Australian system, but America's been a model before. Maybe we can be a model again, right? People love American models. Take notes from you. What you got in the Australian system that we should be taking from you this time? Oh, the American model was definitely a positive thing. It was definitely a move forward. It's just it never moved forward from there, did it? And every time somebody was modeling something after the American system, they knew what they didn't want from it. America's never been able to have that kind of self-reflection before. Now's the chance. And I think the key thing is this, that like this time around we need to go in acknowledging that there's a lot of shit that we don't know and that the picture that we're building a system for is way too broad for any of us. And I think that needs to be reflected in our delegations. Criminalization of hate speech. Man, being raised American, like that feels really hard to embrace as like a constitutional requirement. I mean, the Constitution shouldn't be making anything a crime. It should be labeling what rights are. So that wouldn't be in the Constitution. That would be something that the legislature comes up with. Excuse me a second, guys. I'm gonna go get a drink of water real quick, or I'm gonna go grab a drink. I'll be right back. 100% agree, but I think it's more like the expectation of what standards to be held to if you want to participate in the process. Second Thought posted a video about how America is beginning its second Red Scare. It's a lengthier one, so maybe you watch in your free time, but I'm interested in your thoughts. Well, I'm glad you're interested in my thoughts, little pound cakes. I appreciate that. Saw that posted in the Discord about a U.S. military handbook. Yeah, I saw that one too. I was wondering if I would get the chance to look at that later tonight. I want to make the delegation shit, like the upfront stuff. Maybe we can look at that in a little bit. Okay, so straight up, first and foremost, delegations. Lasagna, you knocking shit over? So this is my thought. If we're gonna have delegations, I think they need to represent interests in broad swaths of the American public. It's a huge part of U.S. history I really want to dive more into. No, we aren't taught too much about that. The Red Scare is kind of like when we were kids, it was kind of a like shameful mark on America's past. I mean, like slavery is too, but like I think slavery is more readily something that people look to be like, this still impacts people today. So it's like continued impact on the people and on inequality is still relevant. So we really need to focus on it. But the Red Scare it's not so apparent what its modern day impact is. I think now we're starting to see that. And so before now, it was just a shameful mark where we go, I don't know that this is going to be very valuable, and kind of gross to think about. Yoshi Airhead, yo, welcome in. The Red Scare was taught to us heavily in history. Really? Did Australia have its own like Red Scare, or are you learning about the American Red Scare? Oh, for sure. It's like its impact was insane, but like that's hard to teach to like public schoolers. Like public schoolers can see the impact of slavery easily. Had the most whitewashed history of slavery growing up in South Carolina. Shameful, honestly. I mean, it's not the most whitewashed because we're seeing it get worse all the time. Republicans don't want slavery taught these days. You did not like it as intense as the U.S. social upheaval as a result. So when you learn about it in school, do you learn it like a global Red Scare, or you learn the Australian Red Scare, or what? Not going to be here long, but I hope I get to listen to you debate a MAGA before I call it a night. Yeah, I'm disappointed to say that the debates have been few and far between lately. It's becoming harder and harder to defend all the time, and the only people that want to defend it are the straight up loose brains. They just got their brains rattling around in there, and they're not the best people. They're not sending their best. You learn both. The Cold War is a massive thing we learn about in history here in general. Yeah, I wish we learned more about the Cold War in our history classes. There's a lot to take from that. The Australian one was propaganda about the domino theory and how it starts with Vietnam and then it's us. Wow. First Vietnam, then everyone. This is the only way to justify Vietnam. It's bad 20, 25 years ago, so you can't imagine what's going on now. A lot of us also weren't convinced by it and saw the transparency of it as a scare tactic. That's fair. I guess that's a good sign. I mean, I don't know whether to say it's a good sign or not, because I don't know how much debate from the MAGA right was ever in good faith. So it's hard to know. And when quote unquote it was more defensible to be MAGA, they would come on and debate, but like, did that make a difference? I don't know. And the idea that things are continuing to go on and they're continuing to get worse, and now the MAGA right just doesn't want to debate anymore, it could symbolize that they're not supporting it anymore, that they recognize it's less defensible, but it could also signal that they're like, it doesn't matter anymore. Like, we can just let go of the idea of trying to convince everyone of our side and just let the continued spiral take over. I don't know. We kind of hated America and Britain low-key by then. We were used and abused through 2 world wars. Man, I hate to hear that. I don't know much about like Australia's role in the world wars. They were used and abused? Question mark. Little pound cakes. This is a tomb I bought for my birthday that I'm working through. That's a pretty expensive history. You know, a tome. Cold War on 5 continents. Oh. That's pretty cool. You say it's a tome. How big is it? What are we talking about? 608 pages. Ugh. I already have a hard enough time reading, which is surprising to hear from a lawyer, but reading is tough for somebody with ADHD, no matter what they do. Evening, Athena. How are you doing? Coping with anything in specific? Like, I've not touched the news yet today. It's been a wild one. Is there more to cope with than I'm aware of? Britain sent us to Gallipoli, which slaughtered all our young. Oh, jeez. And America sent us to die in the Pacific against brainwashed fascists. Man, the Pacific, like, theater had to be pretty bad. That's my understanding, is that the Pacific theater was bad, and I would not wish anybody to be involved in that. I mean, it's the same with any war, but 200 pages of notes? What? What is this, House of Leaves? Has anybody in here read House of Leaves? Because that's wild. That's feels like reading the experience of a crazy person, which is the intent of the book, but jungles and insane Japanese war criminals. Yeah. Okay, back to what I wanted to talk about. So I don't imagine this topic is going to take a lot out of us. I mean, maybe in a minute when we get to like the problems we need to solve, but I wanted to get everybody's thoughts on, I think what we need is, like, I don't want delegations to get out of hand, but I do think initial delegations need to be pretty sizable, because they need to represent several groups of interests. And so, and maybe I'm just wrong on this, and y'all tell me what your thoughts are. I could definitely use some insight into what other people think on delegations, but I think if we just send a couple of wealthy people or a couple of lawyers to the Constitutional Convention, then a lot of stuff that is going to get left, like, not even on the cutting room floor. It's just not going to get raised at all, and it really should be. Things like education. If we don't send people who have an interest in education to the delegation, then education is going to get looked over all over again, and we can't afford that anymore. We need to have education first and foremost, I think, in most instances. We need to have the public educated, or else everything gets, like, falls apart over and over and over and over and over again. And if the public's not already educated, then they are poorly armed against forces like the political right that want to de-educate them, that want to remove from them their rights to education and the power that education brings. So I would want represented groups at the delegation. I want educators represented. That's a lot of citations. News: we are cooked and nothing will change. Yeah, unless the states decide to change it. Removing privatization of services that should be controlled by common interest, not a pursuit of capital. Like what specifically? So I think we need educators. I think we need unions. How we select what unions, I think it's going to be, I think that might have to change state by state. It's going to depend on what the major industries of each state are. So I don't know if we need to define it more than that. Transport and roadways. Who would be our representatives for transport and roadways? Utilities need to be socialized. Oh, for sure. For sure. And God damn it, Texas needs its power grid connected to somebody other than Texas. Because Texas power grid is an insane thing that should not exist. Optimus, I don't know if that's one you know about. Texas has its own power grid, and like most of the other states are connected to one of, I think, 2, maybe 3 multi-state systems, and Texas can't manage its own. It's not able to do it. I think Texas will experience an Enron situation. In what sense? I had other ideas for like people that need to be represented here. I mean, lawyers need. I'm gonna put this as a separate group. I think lawyers should be a separate group, because lawyers' job should be to help others get what they think needs to be seen in the Constitution or in the law. they need to be able to translate their needs and their desires into like legally enforceable things. Data centers are thirsty bitches. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's true. Okay, educators, unions, medical professionals. Y'all got any other groups that need representing out here? Yoshi Airhead, I'm taking my first and last college law class, and I may not know enough yet, but from what I've learned so far, using the law to change things for the better seems like an impossible task. I'm gonna hard disagree with that. I think starting at least as far back as the Magna Carta and probably going way farther back than that, law is the main way that we hold each other accountable for positive changes. Yes, there are lots of ways that the law is abused, but the law is the way to make things stick to move forward, I think. Because once you put it down on paper, what everyone is thinking is the best thing to do, what everyone is thinking is the thing that we all need to do and is kind of afraid to try to enforce themselves. Once you put it down on paper that everyone agrees to that, it's kind of hard to take back. I mean, look at the American Second Amendment. Like, we fucked that up. Like, that's not the way we view that now as of 2008. That is not the way it was intended to be viewed. But the fact that it's down on paper, well, you're not going to lose it. You're not going to take it back. As a thought healer, that means you, medical professionals? You don't like medical professionals. How do you mean, Frank Big Time? Blow chips, hi. Teachers, I've got educators up there, yeah. Well, like, what do you want me to put up here? Physicians? There. How's that? I think it's high time for you to get you guys to use the Second Amendment how it was meant to be used. That's literally what I'm talking about. That's not what the Second Amendment is for. That is one of my pet peeves on this channel, is the Second Amendment is not meant to fight against a tyrannical government. It is not meant to be a right that is individually held by like the citizens of the United States. That is not what it's for. Ah. Heller was a really fucked up opinion. Heller sucked. Didn't the Magna Carta get signed through force? I mean, but that's still law, isn't it? That is still law. You're talking about how we implement law. Physicians should get a voice through medical unions, not have their own extra weighted voice. Okay. Then what? How much more do I need to, like, how should I specify unions then? Because I'm talking about like metal workers unions, electricians unions. Is there a more specified term for that? Right now, Blood Chips, we're talking about if we're to set up a constitutional convention, then every state's going to need a delegation, and I don't just want to send lawyers in there. I don't want to send lawyers and lawmakers because that leaves a lot of people that get overlooked. And so I'm trying to think like what groups should be represented in making the laws so that we don't like lose the opportunity to make good happen, where people with greater insight into their particular areas, their particular communities, where they could give good insight that could make positive change to the future, like we don't lose it. Anesthesiologists? I don't think we need to get that specific. Like, I think if we send in somebody who's in physical therapeutic medicine, like they could be like, okay, well, we're gonna need to look out for like people's rights to anesthesia. Like, I don't think we need to get like we're talking about constitutional law, so we're talking about rights, and we're talking about like divisions of labor in the government. So we're talking broad strokes here, just to make sure that nobody gets overlooked. We're not talking about specific laws that are getting put in place. My main thing is if we start talking about laws like right to health care, like if that's going to have to require some specified language, and I think somebody who works in the medical field as a medical professional is going to need to know, or is going to need to be there to help people who don't know shit about that consider all of the angles. Unions, well, right, Frank, big time. Like, unions should cover everybody. I mean, how can I better phrase that? If somebody's got a suggestion for how I should better phrase that, like, unions, I'm concerned about, like, laborers being represented in terms of how we frame the rights of people in relationship to work in industries that are typically unionized in the United States. I know it feels too broad. I don't. This is what I'm talking about. You send a lawyer to go talk about like unions, and they don't touch like unions. Lawyers aren't unionized. Then the lawyer's going to be poorly equipped to know what they're talking about. It's like proper representation across sectors and industries that doesn't translate to blocks of power. Yeah. So maybe this isn't the right way to go about this. Maybe we need a different way of thinking about it. Surely educators, like trade unions and physicians, are not the only groups that we're thinking of. I know I've thought of others before, and I'm just blanking right now. Doing this completely wrong somehow. I just meant that going as specific as physicians feels like it would mean going more specific in other industries. I wouldn't single doctors out as having a more important voice. Well, then like psychiatrists. So I mean, okay. Oh my God, I can't even right now. There. I had to literally sit and pause to think about how psychiatrist is spelled. I'm just gonna put other medical professionals here. What's up, Aliana? I feel like I haven't seen you in a while. Why not copy other countries for delegations? Law Chips, do you have a good example of like countries whose delegations for constitutional drafting I should follow? How old is that new phone of yours all? What? Sarah Wild, what's up? See, like right now I'm feeling like we're poorly equipped to talk about what kind of delegations we need. Like how to form these delegations. I've been ambiguous again, and I don't know how to change how I'm phrasing it. Sorry. Probably just I don't think there's ever going to be a perfect system in general anyway. I mean, sure. Well, let me try something else over here, y'all. I'll be with y'all in just a second. Sarah Wild and Aliana, how y'all doing tonight? Y'all having a good weekend? Y'all having a good year of the horse? You think it can start treading into discrimination? I mean, if you start talking about like different sectors to represent in drafting the Constitution, I don't know how that leans into discrimination, because I don't know how that touches on any immutable characteristics of anybody. I'm gonna bring this up live on screen here in just a second. Okay, here we go. Time for us to bring out the AI to help us soundboard some stuff. Okay, the problem with category-based delegations, defining delegations by sector runs into exactly the issue. You're hitting the categories are either too broad to mean anything or too narrow to be representative. Educators could mean a kindergarten teacher, university president, a homeschool parent, or a state superintendent, all of which would be, I think, great to have used as representation. Those people have wildly different perspectives on what constitutional reform should look like. You'd spend more time fighting over who represents education than actually doing convention work. There's also a legitimacy problem. If you handpick categories, some will always ask why educators and not farmers. I mean, farmers would be a great category. That was one that I had previously thought of before. I'm gonna go ahead and add that one in. Why unions, not small business owners? The selection of categories itself becomes a political fight that undermines the whole project before it starts. A better frame, what does the convention actually need? Instead of asking who should be represented, ask what knowledge does the convention need access to and how do we get it there? That's a different question with cleaner answers. Drafting capacity, people who can write constitutional language, sure. Implementation knowledge, people who understand how government systems actually function and at the operational level. Not what should education policy be, but if you restructure federal funding mechanisms. Lived experience perspective, people who can speak on how constitutional structures land on actual communities. Okay, let me catch up with you guys. Oh no, not saying it will, but I'm saying it can allow it to happen. Bad actors can weaponize it and point to it and say, see, these groups are represented, but you aren't, even if that's not technically the case. That's a good point, Optimus. My friend said they supported trans women, however, she stated she would still rather be in a room with a bear than a trans woman. Sounds odd, right? Been thinking moving away from where I live because of it. Been thinking about moving away from where you live because of what your friend said about trans women? That's real odd. Yeah, pretty eyebrow raising. Hi. What's up, Evelyn? I support trans people, except in this scenario is basically an excuse to keep moving the goalpost. Hey, I mentioned this. There's also a legitimacy problem. Yeah, you're right, Optimus. Yeah. What's up, Maddie? Already running into difficulties with like how I'm considering approaching delegations. Honestly, just hire more bureaucrats. I'm a trans woman myself. That's a weird thing for your friend to say then, Sarah. That's an even more weird thing for your friend to say. Why the fuck would your friend say that? That's pretty fucked up. And like, the thing about like the bear versus the man isn't supposed to be they have the genetics of a male. It's about how men are masculinized, how men are trained by society, and what that makes men look like to like the average man look like to the average woman. That makes no sense at all. Systems delegates, people with operational expertise in areas the convention's scope will touch. This is where you get specific based on what the convention is actually proposing to amend. If you're restructuring the relationship between federal and state power, you need people who understand federal funding pipelines, regulatory implementation, interstate commerce mechanics. If you're reforming the well, we're rewriting the Constitution. I genuinely think the approach to the issue we are discussing needs to be quite a generalized approach. 100% could be wrong, but I feel like the more specific and detailed these sorts of frameworks for representation are, the harder it becomes for proper representation. I mean, another reason like I want to go to like the common people when we're talking about a delegation is there's already the concern that these people are going to be bought. And if you're talking about like I think putting things in the hands of the average citizen makes that less of a concern, but maybe not. Maybe that just makes them more easy to buy. I don't know. Maybe we need to look at this from the approach of how do we solve the bot delegate issue. Because I think that's a very legitimate criticism of a constitutional convention at this point in time. Is like, if we're going to have a handful of people redeciding how the Constitution is written, and these people didn't just like go through the trenches together to like put their lives on the line to create the country they're writing the Constitution for, then how do we have any confidence whatsoever that these people are going to be bought by special interests? Socially, I feel like we need to return to establishing collective goals, like working for a better future, or what we are working towards. I mean, allow the socialists to sit here and tell you that we are not working together for a collective future, and we never can be so long as capital is working against us. Period. There is no joint future. There is only the collective power of capital to exploit the workers, to extract everything they can to get out of you for their benefit. That's it. That's how it works. Surprise. It's a fair and important distinction I gloss over. You're not just worried about if we restructure funding, does something break? You're worried about the substance of what gets written. When the convention sits down to draft an education right, a room full of lawyers will write something that sounds constitutionally elegant and protects approximately the wrong things, because they don't know what's actually failing. They'll protect access to education when the real problem is resource allocation formulas, or they'll enshrine the right to a quality education without understanding what that means. Same with medical rights. So the real question is, how do you get substantive domain knowledge into the drafting of rights without turning delegation selection into an impossible categorization exercise? Here's where I think the distinction that actually helps is between delegates and testimony/advisory structures. The Philadelphia Convention had 55 delegates. They didn't try to put a farmer, a merchant, a sailor, and a minister in every state delegation, but they did draw on extensive knowledge from outside the room, through correspondence, through their own professional backgrounds, through state-level debates that had been happening for years. The room was small, the inputs were enormous. Yeah, okay. For what you're building, I think you want a two-layer system. The delegations vote on and draft language, and yes, those need to include people beyond lawyers, but trying to get every domain represented as a voting delegate is where it collapses, because the domains are infinite. Okay. The second layer is structured input. The convention formally empowers issue commissions or advisory panels, groups of domain experts, and affected communities who are tasked with producing recommendations on specific rights areas. The convention can't draft an education right without first hearing from the Education Commission. I mean, okay, so I guess that's what I mean then. It's not that we need delegates, it's that we need commissions. I feel like generally we need to look at establishing trust and legitimacy to institutions again. I agree. I think we need to reestablish like trust in experts. There has been too much and too long of a concentrated effort to delegitimize expertise. And part of like the internet has only like I think that probably existed before the internet. Like we started de-educating the public back in, I mean, I want to say the 80s, but I probably goes back farther than that. We're de-educating the public, and the internet showed up, and they go, "Oh, well, we can use this to just point everybody to the internet and say, hey, look, your opinion on everything is just as valid as everyone else's." Social media was the death spiral for objective reality. Yeah. I think you'll hate this, but like, I'm not gonna hate anything, man. I think you'll hate this, but like 25% of the population would really think it was important to have their religion represented. I think that would be a bad idea, but they don't. I think this is where like commissions would be good, but keeping it out of the drafting room itself. I have pivoted to like delegates and commissions. A system of delegates and commissions, okay? And then it's not about like who you're representing. It's more based on sectors. And so in that case, we can work on things like transportation and infrastructure, and you don't have to like look for specific like careers to represent that. You can have just people who know shit about that. I hate it. I didn't even read it. Nah, it's fine, G. I have met so-called people with masters in chemistry and physics who deny all peer-reviewed journals of proven science that there are idiots with all sorts of qualifications. Yeah, true. Complete transparency with financial contributions for institutions with severe penalties if not followed. What is that in response to, Optimus? By the way, guys, we're getting close to 50 minutes here, and there were a few extra minutes at the start for like the intro. I'm looking at like doing about an hour stream. This week has absolutely exhausted me. So I'm gonna try and keep it short tonight, get rested so I can come back and bring it hard again. Pivot the economy into Donald Trump coin. Oh no, what's oh no? Maddie, are you disappointed in me for like keeping a short stream? I met a guy who said the ITER project for fusion power is 100% fake and just AI generated slop. I'll give my guy, it's raised some good questions in general. Oh, well, thanks, Maddie. That's very sweet of you. Yeah, man. I want to go into explanations, like just to let you guys know what kind of idea it is, but there's some things involved in there that are not my business to share. So I'm trying to help people with some stuff, and I split my attention multiple ways. As a PhD in nuclear physics, it is critical that you keep yourself healthy. You guys are so sweet. I love my community. I love you guys. Thank y'all. I have a PhD, a pretty huge... nah. Okay, so now that we've identified the whole commissions thing, I think in it, if we go back to identifying what issues and sectors, we could easily just like knock out a giant list of that. So I don't want to worry about that right now. I want to see if you guys have any thoughts on how do we solve the bot delegate problem. Yeah, it is a hard one. How do we solve a problem like Maria? Maddie, I appreciate your brain. Like, I don't know how realistic of a solution this is, but it makes me think like I don't want to say the best. One idea that presents itself is to have a delegate pool, and the delegate pool can work together like amongst themselves like prior to the convention to have an idea of like what the state's representation at the convention is going to look like. And then you can have a lottery system where at the time of the convention, like specific delegates are pulled based on lottery. And by that point, there will be like no opportunity for someone to come in and buy them by that point. And you can't just buy everyone that's in the delegate pool. That would be impossible. Met someone last night who said they are going to college and would finally get a PhD. I didn't know how to tell them that is not how PhDs work. If everyone with more than, say, $10 million just went missing, I think it would make delegates less bought. Oh, I hadn't considered that solution. That's a curious one. Like, aside from what you're actually suggesting there, Frank Big Time, it would be really funny to just say, all right, we're starting to talk about a convention. Let's just take everyone who has a substantial sum of money and put them in a camp for a little bit while we work out the Constitution. They will have no ability to contact anybody outside those walls. Then we'll let them all out again when it's over. They thought it would be a course. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Tougher restrictions on past experience limiting involvement? Absolutely. If you're working for big oil, it should exclude you from being elected to represent financial sectors, for instance. Well, I mean, but you don't have to be elected. Like, if you're working for big oil, you don't have to be elected to get your policy across the table. Could be a very posh camp. Okay, I want to know, I'm curious what the AI will say about this. Okay. How do we solve the bot delegate threat? Ask Grok. I'm glad it at least sees the severity of the problem right up front. This is the existential threat to the whole project, and it's worth being honest that there's no perfect solution. No! But there are layers that make it very, very hard. Let's think about what bot actually looks like in practice, because the threat isn't just a briefcase full of cash, it's subtler than that. It's the delegate whose campaign to become a delegate was funded by a pharmaceutical lobby. It's the delegate who knows there's a consulting job waiting after the convention. It's the delegate who receives I'd also be concerned about the briefcase full of cash. Like, that's how Elon approached things. That was good enough for a lot of people. Bot delegate. I mean, yeah, let's not conduct any of this online. Otherwise, that's a real problem. Damn it, I don't like hard work. Why can't there be a perfect solution? Ask your AI if it would like to be upgraded with a neural symbolic M-way tree wrapper. Huh? How delegates get chosen matters more than almost anything else. If delegates are elected in traditional campaigns, you've already lost, because campaigns cost money and money comes with strings. You've essentially recreated Congress. The alternatives that resist capture. Sortition. Random selection from a qualified pool, like jury duty. Hey, that was my first thought. Okay, weirdos. Okay. Emotional based responses? Are emotional based responses a problem? I'm confused. I don't know enough. I at least found that entertaining. Optimus, you got your answer. Okay. Whew, this is a long answer. Okay, sortition, random selection from a qualified pool like jury duty. This is the nuclear option against corruption because you literally can't buy a delegate who doesn't know they're a delegate until they're picked. The downside is competence. You might get someone who's never thought about constitutional structure, but paired with your commission/advisory system, that might matter less than you think. And there's something philosophically powerful about it. The original Constitution was written by elites. This one is written by the people. That's a message. I don't think a Constitution can be written by the people. I'm sorry. I think the people who actually write the thing need to be legally trained. What if they all watch Andrew Tate and randomly get put in charge? Yeah. I mean, I guess that's a threat with lawyers too. I'm sure there's some Andrew Tate lawyer fans out there. Sarah Wild, you live in 2026 and don't know what TDS is? That's MAGA call it Trump derangement syndrome, because somehow they've been deluded into thinking that what people are upset with Trump is something that is personally to do with Trump. And even beyond that, like when people do point to like personally disqualifying characteristics about Trump, they still think there's something else that people hate about Trump that makes them judge him differently than other people. Like, you could say, like, you know, like, he raped one of his wives, and they'd be like, yeah, well, you're only upset about that because you don't like him. It's like, well, what do you think I don't like about him? I'm really confused. But really, they're the only ones that have Trump derangement syndrome because they're the only ones that treat Trump differently than they would anyone else. CDS. All right. Peace out, Optimus. It was good having you here, and thank you for always being here creepily quickly. Ah, yes. See, that's why I rephrased TDS to be tyranny derangement syndrome. It's like, that's the thing I care about. Like, is that an issue? Somebody's acting tyrannical. Should I not be upset about that? Okay, hybrid selection. Some delegates are appointed by state legislatures, which gives the process political legitimacy and ensures people who understand lawmaking are in the room. Some are selected by sortition, which ensures ordinary citizens are present and resistant to capture. And some are nominated through a structured process with strict eligibility rules. The mix matters and will be debated at the Annapolis phase. Yeah? Okay. Fair. If I'm sure no one knows what I'm talking about when it comes to the Annapolis phase. The Annapolis Convention was a convention that was held before the actual U.S. Constitutional Convention, where the states talked about how to organize a convention. So it's basically what we're talking about when we're talking about holding a pre-convention convention where the states actually come together to draft the application so that Congress can't fuck with it. Nerd. Yeah, you know me. Trump devotion syndrome. Oh, Donnie, that's a good one too. There are multiple ways to spin this. I think people who have TDS and believe the Earth is flat have a similar brain structure. True, true. It's a pre-meeting to figure out how to make a meeting. I mean, hey, that's how America was founded. I didn't come up with it. Just following the rubric given. Disqualification criteria. Regardless of how delegates are chosen, you can write rules about who can't serve. Current lobbyists, anyone who's registered as a lobbyist in the past 5 years. Ooh, I like that one. I like that one. Guess whose dad was a lobbyist? Yeah, the only ads that should be going, I believe, are like Twitch's own ads. Just going to watch the Hedge Night instead of streaming, then saw you. Aw, Masselhoff. I'm not going to be here for too much longer. Where are we at with the new constitution? I think a good strategy for right now is we're going to hop around to different things that we need doing. And right now we're just talking about delegation structure. So like when people ask what this stuff looks like, we at least have an answer for like the type of thing we're talking about. Like, so now with the Constitution, we can be like, look, we think like executive functions need to be divided up between like 3 different sub branches with no head that's in charge of all of them. Domestic policy needs to be its own branch, as well as like information and transparency needs to be its own branch. So that's the kind of major changes we're talking about with the Constitution. But then when it comes to a convention, it's like, well, how are you planning to do this without having delegates that are bought? How do you do this while making sure that the correct sectors are being represented? Like that's another thing we need an answer to, and that's what we're working on right now. Oh, Sock, now you were streaming? Hey, nice. Thank you, Sock now. Hedge Night is so good. We get to capital punishment yet? Oh, we haven't gotten to capital punishment, but I think that would be a pretty easy thing. Like if we just put everyone has a right to life, if you actually put that in the Constitution, I think capital punishment suddenly gets a lot harder and it becomes a hard thing for people to argue against. Hedge Night is my current favorite show. What is that? I haven't heard of Hedge Night. I'm waiting for the UK to enact this for people like myself. I do think it may happen. Yeah, right now we're working on what delegations look like, and specifically right now we're looking at how to solve the bot delegate problem. Oh, a Knight of 7 Kingdoms. Okay. Writing a communist academic paper? Hell yeah. Nice. Very nice. Lives under a hedge. There's a book? How does a book exist in the Game of Thrones universe? Voluntarism? I don't know. How does that solve the bot delegate problem? Bot delegates can easily volunteer. Yeah. George R.R. Martin, he writes books? I didn't think he wrote books. Alright, just a few more minutes, y'all. Okay, I really like the idea that lobbyists can't serve in the delegation. We can probably come up with some more disqualifications like that. Financial transparency is your second firewall. Every delegate's finances become public for the duration of service. Oh, and for some period after. Yo. Okay. Huh. I mean, that's kind of extreme, but it definitely says something about the people who want to volunteer to be delegates. What do y'all think of that? Does that sound as good of a solution to y'all as it sounds like to me? Yeah, I've got VODs of this stream on Twitch for sure. Have we considered volunteerism where we take care of all their needs in house and keep tabs on them and their bank accounts? Oh, okay, yeah, little Donnie Fund. You were touching on that a little bit there. Volunteer firefighters, we monitor their financials, their finances. They have to check their partners and kids' finances too. Yeah, that becomes a little bit harder to get volunteered in. Okay. What was the word for the lottery system? Sortition? Could give them an incentive. Maddie, how does an incentive solve additional incentives? Not just disclosure, but monitored disclosure. Independent forensic auditors reviewing delegate finances during and after. You write into the convention rules that any delegate found to have received undisclosed financial benefits from any entity with interests before the convention is expelled and their vote is voided. Hell, make it a fucking criminal offense. I would like that. That would make me happy. You make the consequences severe enough that the risk calculation changes. I mean, I don't feel like it just described it. Severe consequence. This is the equivalent of how we handle judicial ethics, but stricter because the stakes are higher. If they stay clean for 5 okay, so like, so it's not just like an expectation. They do get a reward out of it. Okay. Like the RNLI in the UK, volunteers who do sea rescue, they do not until they complete their duty, like 2 years or something. Okay, yeah. Okay, I'm with you guys. The business sector would be able to pay far beyond any reward or incentive. So it's like we create a structure by saying, look, like, you're going to be monitored, so like you can't do these deals. But on top of that, we also want to reward you for like going through this shit. So on the other end of it, you will also get a benefit out of doing this. Like, it shores up that defense. A prestigious title. This is America, little Donnie Fund. We don't do that. We don't do prestigious titles. Prestigious titles are Mr. and Mrs., and everyone has access to them. Also can't get jobs with these groups for at least 10 years. Jobs with what groups, Maddie? Everyone in Florida that works for the state has to report this stuff every year. I don't believe they actually care. But we're talking more than just reporting. We're talking about like access by independent financial auditors. The business sector. So like if someone volunteers to be a delegate and they volunteer to have their financials monitored and they get this reward at the end of like 5 to 10 years of having their financials monitored, who can they not have jobs with? Like, these people have to have jobs in government? So anyone who volunteers to do this has to be in public work. Not this time, little Donnie Fund, because I really need to shut down soon. But we can talk more on this subject next time. Just remind me. I'll make a note myself. Oh, but Maddie, we're just talking about delegates. Like, we're talking about writing the Constitution. That's great, little Johnny Fun. If you want to DM me in Discord, I would appreciate that, and we could definitely talk about it more next time. Going to ramble about lower level loopholes. I mean, if there's a way we can come up with, it'd be like delegate, like we have a way for delegates to have a public, why can't I think of the word, like a civil servant job for like the following 5 years or whatever. If we're gonna keep them paid, then maybe. Would you die for this country? Cool, get caged. Cool. Oh. Criminalization. Incentive. Communication transparency is your third firewall. Every meeting a delegate takes with any outside party gets logged. How are you going to do that? You're just going to assign security to them so that they're followed everywhere? All written communications regarding convention business are subject to disclosure. You create a convention equivalent of open meeting laws, but apply it to individual delegates, not just the body as a whole. This is invasive, and delegates will hate it, and that's fine. I love that take. You're rewriting the Constitution. The public has a right to know who's whispering in the ear of a person drafting their rights. Application of communications transparency to delegates. Bet you were happy when the Falcons were up 28-3. What? Wow. Get wrecked, delegates. Get wrecked, corrupt delegates. I mean, I guess all delegates in a sense. Structural design is your fourth and most important firewall. This is the one people overlook. Even if a delegate is bought, how much damage can they do? If you design the convention process correctly, the answer is not much. One state, one vote means you have to buy entire delegations, not individuals, which is exponentially harder. Public deliberation means a bot delegate has to make their arguments in the open where they can be challenged. The commission input process means a delegate can't just quietly insert industry-friendly language. They have to explain why they're deviating from what the domain experts recommended on the record. Supermajority requirements for the final text mean you'd need to capture a huge number of delegations to control outcomes, and the 38-state ratification requirement is the ultimate backstop. Sure. Post-convention cooling period, delegates are barred from lobbying, taking positions with entities that had interest before the convention, or receiving compensation from such entities for a defined period. The honest caveat, none of this is airtight. Money is creative, power finds cracks, but the goal isn't to make corruption impossible, it's to make it so structurally difficult, so transparent, and so personally costly that the rational calculation shifts. And also, if you can just drop this all on the country all at once, that kind of has its own impact. It'd be like, hey, look, here's all the ways that we're planning to do delegates, and we're moving forward with the convention right now. Doesn't give capital a huge time to respond. Okay, like I actually feel good about some, like, directionally where some of these are going and how we've solved the bot delegate problem. I think there is a way to do it, and I think it's possible. I especially like financial monitoring both during and after the convention. I think like that it's kind of extreme, but I think it's needed. As the frickin' AI put it, like, you're rewriting the Constitution. You're gonna have to take some extreme measures. Sorry. I like that. I like that philosophy on it. Makes sense to me. Okay, and with that, we're just going to continue working on stuff next time. I think maybe let me get some thoughts right now. Next time, do we want to keep working on constitutional issues, or do we want to jump back to the renewed Declaration of Independence where we're listing grievances with the current federal system? Because I think we need that too. Any thoughts? Constitution versus Declaration? Yeah, listing grievances. That Declaration. Let's go. We've got a grievances document going. Declaration of Double Independence. That's right. We've been working on it a little bit. We listed some good grievances here. Yeah. Might need to make this this document available for people. We're basically bulldozing and starting over as well as we can without a revolution, and like B, going beyond the limits of the Constitution, which basically is limitless, other than you can't, like, all the states have to have equal representation in the Senate. That's the only limitation on rewriting the Constitution in the Constitution. And come on, Nightbot. I said, come on, Nightbot. Nightbot is not working. Oh my god. Okay, gotta figure that out. There you go. No. Wait. Maddie? Where'd you get that one from? Because I think I got a permanent one. Where's that one listed? Manually got it from my Discord. That's where I got it from. Is it? Huh. Weird. Okay, I'm gonna do my sign off for now. Next time we'll work on the Declaration again. Okay. I'm Know Nothing Attorney. I know nothing, so you can too. Because it's only in embracing that we know nothing that we can actually learn anything. And that's what I aim to do with you guys every time I'm here. I'm live. Every time I'm live. I want to learn from you, and I hope you can learn along with me. And as always, I'm proud of you. I don't need to know you personally for that to be real. It's true, and you deserve to hear it. If only because life is hard, it's always been hard, and it always will be hard. The way you face every day the way you do is remarkable. So stay remarkable, and I'll see you guys next time. Y'all have a good night, and I'll see you Monday night. Bye.